Tropical Storm Ian is continuing to strengthen in the Caribbean. This storm is going to rapidly intensify and head towards the U.S. as a major hurricane. In fact, this storm has the best chance we've seen in a while at becoming a Category 5 hurricane. But we're not sure if we're going to see that intense of a storm at landfall. This is because at the same time, a giant cold blast of air from Canada is going to rush across the U.S. running straight towards this massive storm. What happens when they meet could be bad news for the hurricane or the people under it, depending exactly on how that interaction goes. And that cold air is not only going to be a problem for future major Hurricane Ian, but also for millions of people across the lower 48 as major weather pattern shifts are going to take place, leading to an increased risk of thunderstorms. In fact, the Storm Prediction Center has highlighted an increased severe weather risk for today in this area where we could see isolated hail, damaging winds, and tornadoes. But ultimately, the big story today is this major hurricane which is barreling down on the U.S. Let's get all the information out there so we can all stay ahead of this potentially dangerous storm. And here it is in all of its glory, Tropical Storm Ian as seen from satellite, and it honestly doesn't look too bad right now. But as you can see here on satellite, we're starting to see these storms get more organized and really start to spin. The latest information on Tropical Storm Ian is that it's got winds of 50 miles an hour and gusts up to 65 miles per hour. But you can see in the cone of uncertainty, we've got this thing forecast to become a Category 4 storm very soon. Before that, Ian is forecast to pass west of the Cayman Islands this evening and approach western Cuba Monday night. Jamaica and the Cayman Islands both are expected to receive 4 to 8 inches of rain from this passing storm, with the high terrain areas at risk for flash flooding and dangerous mudslides. Storm surge up to 4 feet is expected Sunday night in the areas closest to Ian, lasting through Monday morning. As you can see, just since yesterday, things have changed a lot. I'm going to explain everything and really try to nail down exactly where this thing is going to go and how strong it's going to be. But first, let's get an update on this terrible situation in Atlantic Canada from Superstorm Fiona. Port aux Basques, Newfoundland is officially under a state of emergency after post-tropical storm Fiona ripped through Atlantic Canada this weekend. At least 20 homes were completely washed out to sea by the storm surge, and one lady had to be rescued from rushing water as her house collapsed beneath her. Another woman is reported to have been washed away in the tide. Unfortunately, her status is still unknown due to rescue crews being unable to reach her location due to hazardous conditions. Power remains out in much of Nova Scotia, and power companies in the area are concerned that it will stay that way for the next few days, at least until it becomes safe for workers to go out there and repair the mangled infrastructure. Damage is widespread as the homes, roads, and bridges in this area aren't constructed to handle the kind of winds we saw with Fiona. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has promised the Canadian Army will be deployed to the affected areas in order to help with recovery and cleanup efforts over the next coming weeks. Not only did this storm rock Atlantic Canada, it rocked the jet stream and sent ripples across the entire northern hemisphere. This will lead to some big-time weather changes around the globe, including through much of the lower 48. You see, a huge blast of cold air is coming down from Canada this week, and it'll be felt by pretty much everyone as it heads all the way down towards the Gulf of Mexico. This is ultimately a result of Hurricane Fiona slamming into the jet stream, but it will have lasting effects on the weather here in the US. Actually, we're going to start feeling those effects today. There's just so much weather going on. Let's start off with the severe weather expected today. The upper Ohio Valley and northern mid-Atlantic regions, including New York City, could see widely scattered supercells today, especially along this warm frontal zone where the environment could support the risk for tornadoes. It looks like these storms are going to try to start popping up after noon in eastern Ohio and western Pennsylvania, and then traverse across the risk area through 8 or 9 p.m. this evening. The tornado risk overall is pretty low, but there's enough spin in the atmosphere to cause a few surprises, so please be weather aware out here. Also, we're going to see very windy and dry conditions across South Dakota and Oklahoma as a result of this colder air blast that's going to come down from Canada, and this is going to support the risk of fires. In fact, the Storm Prediction Center has put out a couple elevated risk areas for fires here in the orange, so anybody around these areas should also stay weather aware today. And finally, it looks like those roasting temperatures are going to come to an end in the south. That cold blast of air from Canada will ultimately make its way down through these areas starting today through the beginning of the work week. This front is also going to bring about a fall-like pattern with cooler temperatures from the Great Lakes region into the Ohio Valley and all across the East Coast by midweek. But it's still a different story out west. These guys are still in a summer-like pattern due to the amplifying upper-level ridge. Most of the west is going to continue to see above-average temperatures and a few records broken as we go through Monday. There's just too much weather going on to condense everything into one of these videos. I might have to start uploading like 5 times a day. Not only do we have the severe weather, temperature changes, and fire weather going on, but future major Hurricane Ian will eventually play a major role in the forecast for a lot of the lower 48 after it makes landfall. The entire East Coast, including the Carolinas, should be on the lookout for remnants of Ian by the end of the week. These impacts could include heavy rain, gusty winds, winds and the chance of isolated tornadoes. In fact, with any tropical storm, we really have to look at the tornado risk, especially after it makes landfall and in the front right quadrant of the storm. This is where we could see enough spin which would actually allow for tornadic activity at any point along its path, depending on the overall strength of the storm and its access to warm and moist air. Now, despite what happens with the leftovers from Ian, the main event is certainly going to take place somewhere along a coastline that's along the Gulf of Mexico. New model data coming in looks really concerning, but there's also still a big lack of confidence in the exact track of where this thing's going to go. Just since yesterday, we've seen a lot of changes. Two of the main changes are that Ian's starting to look beefier and its track is sliding to the left a little bit. But Ryan, you told me yesterday that southern Florida was a potential target. Well, first of all, my young weather apprentices, it still technically is. And I did mention that this forecast was over 5 days out, which includes a lot of model uncertainty. These forecast models ain't crystal balls, buddy. They are tools, and we're going to see a lot of changes in them as those tools get new data fed into them. During hurricane season, we actually call this the windshield wiper effect. It'll continue to go back and forth as time goes on, but the overall distance between the uncertain potential tracks will get shorter and shorter over time. And the weird thing here is that landfall is still 5 days away. The first NHC cone for Ian depicted landfall for Florida around 2 a.m. on Wednesday, and now we're looking at sometime between 2 p.m. on Wednesday and 2 p.m. on Thursday, which is 12 to 36 hours later than initially forecast. This is because Ian is currently taking a more south and west trajectory than the models were anticipating, so it'll take longer for the trough to suck up the hurricane towards the Gulf. Now, what that means for y'all in western Florida, from Naples up through Tampa, is that if the models are right, you're likely going to see a lot more rain and storm surge, but with less intense winds. But people in the Panhandle proper would have to deal with the actual landfall and its impacts, which would likely bring about a period of much higher wind gusts. And now that we know that we're still just as confused about the path of Ian, are we any more confident about the strength of it? Latest model ensembles are now having Ian peak at Category 4 strength, with a select few even flirting with Category 5 and surpassing it. This is largely because the more western track will have Ian thread the needle between Cuba and the Yucatan Peninsula and will keep it in the Gulf longer, giving it more time to fuel up and strengthen. But just because this storm may reach Category 5 status doesn't mean that it's going to hit Florida or wherever it makes landfall as a Category 5 storm. Once again, we had that huge blast of cold air coming down from Canada that will make or break this storm when it comes to landfall. However, if this thing does blow up into a Category 4 or a Category 5, it's going to have a lot of fight in it, and it could be strong enough to sustain itself before landfall, even though the cold, dry air is going to try to take it down. Also, we have to think about how the models are handling this cold air. Just like the track and timing of the hurricane, these models can be wrong about the timing of the cold air as it comes down. If it's even just a tiny bit slower than what's currently projected, the storm will have even more time to eat up all the hurricane juice in the Gulf of Mexico, which would ultimately make it a much worse storm. But no matter what happens and no matter what the strength is at landfall, this is going to be a dangerous storm, and the people in the National Hurricane Center cone need to start preparing now. All these unanswered questions that we still have about Hurricane Ian are probably going to start being answered once we're about 3 days out from landfall. When we get there, we will have a very good idea of exactly how strong Ian will be and approximately where it will impact. So of course, stay tuned to these videos because you know I'm going to be putting that information out constantly, and I'm going to continue to be 100% transparent and honest with you. So hit that subscribe button and turn notifications on. And hey, don't leave yet. I have to tell you about today's sponsor, which is super special because it's myself. Hey, we got to pay the bills some way, and I actually prefer doing it this way. With nobody else's help, it's just me and you. With every single purchase made on shopryanhall.com, not only are you helping us continue to produce content for free here on YouTube and helping us grow, but you're also providing real jobs for people here in Appalachia who really need them. And of course, a portion of every sale goes towards building up that stack of cash we use to help people negatively impacted by severe weather. And guess what? We just dropped some awesome new stuff on the website. We've been working really hard on it. We've got several new long sleeve shirts and hoodies just in time for fall and winter. Check out these new designs. It's fall, y'all. Go snag one of these right now while you still can. But also, if you're not in the mood for a shirt or a hoodie or something like that, we also have a lot of real useful stuff on the site. For example, we have the Mystery Preparedness Bundle. This gets you a random signature merch shirt plus a NOAA weather radio at a crazy discounted price. We also have a new section on the website called the Prep Zone, which hosts an array of items you may want to stock in your tornado shelter, including MREs and other vital survival products. And of course, there's so much more. We've got coffee mugs, iPhone cases, and actual high quality coffee to put in those mugs. No matter who you are or what you're into, there's something for you on there. So go to shopryanhall.com and get something awesome today. And from the moment I upload this video and for the next 24 hours, we're going to do a 10% discount site-wide. All you have to do is use the code PREPARE when you're checking check it out and you're gonna get 10% off your entire order. So hurry up, it's only gonna last for 24 hours and who knows when you're watching this video. You might be watching 23 hours after it was uploaded. Once again, that's shopryanhall.com. I'll see you over there and thank you so much for the support. And thank you for just watching. You don't have to buy our merch. You don't have to pay to be a member. You don't have to do anything to support this channel. I appreciate you if you simply just watch every video, or you click the like button, or you leave a comment every once in a while, especially if you share these videos on social media. You're doing just as much to help out the cause. We're all in this together in our overall mission to get vital severe weather information out to as many people as possible, and we all play a part. So thank you guys for watching. I really do mean that. And of course, thanks to our members over here. I'm gonna see you guys tomorrow and then probably the next day. So get used to seeing this face, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye. Ooh.